Be unmuted. So this is President Bultice of the Villa Park meeting of the Villa Park Village Board, doing a little different this year and doing a Zoom meeting because of the virus. Today's Monday, May 11th at 7 p.m. Clerk Kornecki, could you call the roll?
Yes, Trustee Salella.
Unmute.
Here. Did you say something?
Trustee Ciala, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's muted. Are you still muted? I see you, but I didn't hear you. Trustee Ecozone.
Here.
Trustee Murphy. Here. Trustee Patrick.
Here.
Trustee Tucker. Here. Trustee Wagner.
Here.
President Bultice.
Here. And according to our set agendas, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance. I got a little flag up there so we can do the pledge if you all want to stand at home. I pledge allegiance to the flag,
To the flag of the United States of America
And to the
Republic
for which it
for which
which
it stands,
stands
one nation,
one nation
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty
justice.
and justice
for all.
Okay, very good. Okay. All right, the first item on our agenda is public comment on agenda items. And do we have any mailed in or sent in agenda questions, Manager Keener?
Yes, we do, Your Honor.
And we'll take those first.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have one email that would fall under public comments on agenda items. And I'll start with this one if that's okay, Your Honor.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you. This one is from Angie Rojek. It says, good morning. I'm not able to make tonight's meeting, but I wanted to make sure the letter I wrote is discussed during the parking discussion. I've attached it to be read during public comments on agenda items. Thanks, Angie. It says, Dear President Bultice and Trustee Murphy, thank you for the opportunity to give you our input on parking in the Villa Avenue Business District. We have been attending meetings for over 3 years about parking in the area. Since buying Pioneer Garden 5 years ago, Tony and I have seen a tremendous amount of change on Villa Avenue. We are excited to see new businesses and growth in the area. However, as we have witnessed with new business and a great deal of new housing, Kenilworth Townhomes, comes the need for more parking, which simply hasn't been addressed adequately. In March of 2018, the 30-minute, 3-hour spots were implemented on Villa Avenue. There was some enforcement for a few months, not enough, and enforcement stopped altogether. Our concerns about the new parking plan are as follows. Number one, there is no information included on what will happen to the 110 Villa Avenue previous AK mulch parking. There has been no public discussion about that lot. Planning and zoning was not aware of this huge purchase of land, and when the board voted to buy it, no plan was discussed regarding its use. So we have 1A, Your Honor, how many parking spots will be included? B, when will they go into use? C, is there a plan for development, and if so, how much of the lot will remain parking spaces for local businesses? D, many towns require employees of local businesses to use remote lots like this one. Could the village require employees to park there, to free up street and closer parking spaces? Right now, no matter where an employee parks in the area, they are taking up valuable spaces in front of another business. And then E, where will signage be placed pointing people to that lot? Number two, enforcement. Will it happen moving forward? If not, then nothing will change, and customers of all the businesses will continue to be frustrated and take their business elsewhere. 3, currently the village parking lot behind Moore Brewing and Allstate Insurance. There are not any signs showing no parking 2 to 6 a.m. Will signs go up in that lot? And you have 3A, the existing map says it is currently no parking 2 to 6 a.m. But that is not enforced, nor are there signs indicating that. There are often people parked there overnight, most likely because they've had too much to drink to drive home. Number 4, removing the parking spots along the south side of Central will cause problems for the businesses at the south end of the street. And we have 4A. These were put in around the same time as the 30-minute, 3-hour spaces in order to relieve some of the parking issues, since then a popular business, Fuel Creme, arrived on that street requiring a great deal of parking. And we have B, the old post office is still sitting vacant, but could be used at any time, losing that whole parking lot behind it. And we have C, there are still empty buildings on Villa waiting for new businesses, and it says 123 204 South Villa. Why remove parking spaces when there is already an issue? And then D, their spaces should stay there to provide adequate parking. If they do, Central between Villa and Myrtle should be a one-way street. That portion of the area has become very dangerous, with children darting across Central and the lack of sightline driving south at the corner of Myrtle and Central. Number 5, the north side of Cortese in front of the stage is currently no parking, but is not marked on the proposed map. Will that continue to be no parking? We have 5A on the south side of the street across from the stage where parking is allowed. Could the village stripe spots so that parking spots could be maximized? 4 to 5 cars should fit, but often there are 3 cars there because there's not a line showing parking spots. Number 6, with the addition of 36 Kenilworth townhomes, what is the plan for those homeowners' parking needs? Number 7, when there are events in Cortese Park, Brewfest concerts, will the village continue to block off streets for the entire day? Right now, the village uses our private property between Pioneer and Moore Brewing as a one-way street for people to leave the park and go back out to Villa during those events. Not only does that take away Moore's limited parking spaces, it is very dangerous for all of our customers as well as anyone driving south on Villa because they can't see cars coming out between our buildings. Thank you again for tabling the discussion about parking and giving business owners the chance to weigh in with our thoughts. Please let me know if you have any comments or we can expand any further. Best regards, Angie and Tony Rojek. Thank you, Your Honor.
Did you have any other mail-in comments on the parking issue on Villa?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
Okay, is there anybody in the boardroom wants to address that issue as an agenda item?
Yes, I have Anthony Odo wants to speak on item 7A.
Okay, Anthony, you want to go up to that computer monitor?
Okay, you can see.
I can hear you.
Okay, Anthony Odo. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Anthony Odo, 211 South Villa Avenue. Is a business that has been on Villa Avenue for over 18 years. I have seen it once near empty corridor go through several changes. As the Villa Avenue district has progressed, not all the needs for growth have been satisfied. One need in particular is the parking. I share this so that you understand the parking is a major concern for all the businesses in the area. Even more so now that the businesses will be adapting and doing whatever it takes to be viable and continue to keep doors open during these unprecedented times.
You can sign in with Hosanna.
Customers have many options when it comes to where and how they choose to spend their money. We control who serves the people and what goods we offer, but parking is one of the factors that we have little, if any, say in. We all know that the communities that surround Villa Park offer similar services, and if it is not convenient to come to Villa Avenue, it might be that these customers will certainly choose other options. With changes to the parking having been made in the last couple of years already, it is important that any new changes be done decisively and correctly so as to not keep revisiting the issue. This includes enforcement of the parking rules that are ultimately decided upon. Currently, there is no enforcement of the 30-minute or 3-hour signage along Villa Avenue. I have been to almost, if not every meeting concerning parking on Villa Avenue, and I have spoken several times with neighboring businesses, customers, trustees, and chief of police about the concerns on the parking. It is time that we fix this problem, and yes, the parking is a real problem. The addition of a large parking lot at 110 South Villa is very welcome, but until we see that it actually alleviates the issue, I'm hesitant to call it the solution. Especially taking into consideration many parking spots will either no longer be available for use due to changes in the area or parking spaces that are being removed as in the proposed ordinance change. At some point, we'll be losing the use of approximately 30 plus spaces in the old post office lot. This, along with the proposed removal of a dozen spaces along Central Avenue, the addition of new townhomes on Kenilworth, and new businesses on Villa Avenue will leave the south end of the Villa Avenue Business District with not nearly as much new parking as it might appear. The south end of the Villa Avenue Business District is where some of the busiest activity is located, especially on Thursday through Sunday nights. More Brewing, Demito Saloon, Fuel, Creme, Mahoney's Pub, Ballroom City, Josephine's, and Michael Anthony's all do a majority of their business during these 4 days. Additionally, add in events at Cortese Park, such as Music in the Park, Brewfest, and Big Rigs and Kids, and the area easily becomes overwhelmed. I would ask that you not remove the parking spaces along Central Avenue in order to help minimize the loss of parking on that end of the district. Additionally, I'm asking for a 15-minute parking spot located in front of Michael Anthony's from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day, just as many other towns have in front of their local pizza restaurants. A 15-minute spot in front of Michael Anthony's would be a huge help to the many customers that circle the block looking for a space to park in order to come into the restaurant for an average of under 5 minutes, and would still allow for other businesses, patrons, to use the spot as normal for the rest of the day and night. I have previously spoken with my direct neighbors about the 15-minute spot as well as the village. I was given permission for a spot, but the caveats were that it would have to be an end spot, which puts it in front of a neighbor's business rather than Michael Anthony's. And also it would be unenforceable at this time. Neither of those are beneficial, and I would ask that you consider a request for a 15-minute spot in front of Michael Anthony's. And then my last concerns are I read through the ordinance on the agenda, and it seems that there's verbiage that says parking zones and parking areas, and specifically being allowed to park in one parking area for a 24-hour period. Is that the 3-hour and 30-minute zones? And how is that going to be, if you park in a 30-minute zone, can you then move to the 3-hour, or how is that being handled? It wasn't very clear on the agenda. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the boardroom?
Debbie Demito regarding 7A.
Hello? Do I need to push something?
You're good. Go ahead.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Debbie Demito. I am the owner of Demito Saloon at 335 East Kenilworth and 204 South Villa and the enclosed parking lot on Central. Thank you for allowing me to voice my concerns and suggestions for our parking situation. And I think overall, the proposed maps look pretty good. First, looking at the proposed parking maps, all of the parking areas except the museum parking require to have cars moved by 2 a.m. I'm concerned that if customers may have overindulged and would like to be responsible by taking an Uber or getting a ride at 2 a.m., they may have to move their vehicles to refrain from being possibly ticketed or towed. I'm not sure why or what problem it might cause if we would allow the customers to leave their vehicles parked till morning. Secondly, I would like to know if the new parking lot would be allowing customers to leave their vehicles there after 2 a.m. Their cars, their cars there overnight, or if it will also have a 2 a.m. curfew. And third, I would like to know, as a result of the new parking lot and more designated parking spaces, will new businesses be required to have their own parking spaces for their businesses and their patrons? Thank you for your time. Stay safe.
Is there anyone else in the boardroom for this topic?
Yes, Justin Schlensky regarding 8A.
Okay, Justin?
Good evening, trustees. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Not going to take too much of your time. I'm speaking on agenda item 8A on behalf of my client, which is currently a currency exchange that operates in Elmhurst, pursuant to materials that you have in front of you. Obviously, this has been before planning and zoning, which provided unanimous approval for the text amendment language that I had crafted and worked with then Director of Community Development, Patrick Grill, to revise the language indicating that currency exchanges and similar situated financial institutions would be treated a little bit differently than how the current text in the code reads, such that currency exchanges and very similarly operated business structures currently can only operate in the essentially the manufacturing or industrial districts, which truly are on just the outskirts of town. The text amendment before you, which you have already had for the first reading, which is now before you for second and final approval, or sorry, second reading and final approval, would provide that they could move into the C3, more of a commercial district. Specifically, there is a location that my client is under contract for lease on North Avenue, the north end of North Avenue, similar or very close to where a cell phone store is. There is like a haircut, barber, beauty shop in that area as well. It really will not be a drastic change to the code itself. It is merely indicating that currency exchanges that do not really operate outside of literally just cashing checks for money and providing some title work. Not title loans or any loans of any nature. They're not in the loan game. They're fourth generation family run business. They're simply just looking to move from Elmhurst to bring business into Villa Park, specifically in a location that's currently zoned at C3. So I will be here for the discussion on agenda item 8A, but I would hope that you would vote to approve, pursuant to the second reading, the text amendment language before you. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else in the boardroom?
Yes, Tracy Gabriel on 7A.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tracy Gabriel, and I live at 306 East Central, and I wanted to talk about 7A in regards to the parking. Since last August, so August of 2019, I have been attending the Traffic and Safety Board commission to discuss the entire area around Central and Myrtle, the intersection, the parking, the safety of all people, not just visitors to the area or patrons to any one or specific business. But that entire area right there is a dangerous place waiting to happen, and proposing specific parking around just the business without taking into consideration the residents that live around that area, or a long-standing topic on the traffic and safety to propose any sorts of changes, it doesn't seem reasonable to everybody that's involved in this. It's not just about the businesses. Yes, it is about them, but it's not just about them. It's about the residents as well. My concern is that eliminating parking, adding parking, putting more signage up, or changing anything without having AK mulch lot involved in the discussion or in the overall planning, as well as an extensive traffic study done in the area of Myrtle and Central during the heightened season, during the open season of going to Fuel and Cream and other businesses. Doesn't seem like we're putting all the items in the cart at the same time before we check out and try and make a best decision on what is right for that entire area. I do not want parking removed if it's going to hurt the businesses. I don't want parking removed if it is going to cause restraints against any business. I don't want parking removed if it's not right for the community, but I do want parking removed in front of a building that I live in creates a safety issue for me if there's parking just in front of my building. So I'm voicing my concern as a resident of that area that is just beyond the business district that should be and be included in the discussion. Thank you.
Oh, Tracy? Tracy? Can I ask you a question, Tracy? Tracy gone? She
sat down, Your Honor.
Oh, did he ask me questions? I didn't hear him. Sorry.
I got a question for Tracy.
Oh. Back.
Well, the parking situation on the corner there in front of your place, what exactly are you saying? You don't like to remove the parking spaces to the east of Myrtle, or do you want those to the east of Myrtle left in, and the ones that are to the west of Myrtle, are you saying you want those removed or left in?
So I'm not actually.
Go ahead.
Got it. Not actually proposing any changes. I would like us to have a discussion in regards to that. The reason I'm saying I'm trying to answer your question without putting specifics around it is Central is the same width across the street in front of my building all the way down to Villa. If the reason you're removing parking from one side of the street is due to safety of patrons of a business, you're saying patrons of a business are more important than a resident that lives across the street. I live in a building, and if there's parking on the south side of Central, but there is no parking on the south side of Central in front of Fuel and Cream, you're automatically saying those people visiting Fuel and Cream are more important than me. And that I have a problem with.
Okay, well, for our discussion later on, I'm trying to understand. So you don't want us to make any changes there, or what? Or just leave it as it is, or kick it, or have more discussion, or?
I would like to have more discussion because from my perspective and things that I have proposed to the traffic and safety was remove all parking on Central from Villa all the way down to Euclid and remove it all. Keep the safety of the everybody in that area, but that discussion has to happen with the AK mulch lot involved to understand how much parking is actually going to be in the AK mulch so that it can alleviate some of the parking stress. I don't want to say remove it all, right? You have to be able to add more parking somewhere else.
Okay, well, that's what we're here tonight to have discussion. Okay. So that's why I was trying to figure out what you want. We'll get to with the AK mulch availability in a minute, okay?
If you're going to add AK mulch, then you should be able to remove the 20 spots that are only on Central to make up for what's in mulch.
Okay.
20 spots.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? So I don't have to run back?
No, that's okay. I'll wait till you sit down. Manager Keener?
Yes.
Maybe we can answer some of these questions that Angie Rojak sent over. Specifically, how many parking spots are we planning on opening at the AK mulch property, and when will those be open? Maybe we have it in phases too. So, do you have an answer for that? Wait a minute, I can't hear you. You got on mute.
How's that, Your Honor?
There you go.
Okay. I liked it better the other way. Sorry. Okay. Yes, Your Honor. So if you picture the AK mulch site, in other words, it's 110 South Villa. Near South Villa, near Villa, there's a concrete area on the site. So staff's plan is to use the concrete area first. Now, we've demolished the two structures, the two buildings that were in the middle of that concrete area. So this week, I believe, A-Lamp will be putting some asphalt in where the foundations were. And then next week, I believe, we will be striping that lot and obtaining possibly 35 or more parking spaces on the concrete area. And then we will not allow the use of the gravel area until we define the parking plan better back there. So at least 35 parking spaces by the end of May.
Okay, let's see. As far as the question about the plan for the development of that property, we don't have any plans in front of us for any development on that AK Malls property that I'm aware of right now. So, also Tony asked about let's see, there on that in that AK Malls lot, that according to the ordinance, that'll be no parking from 2 to 6 a.m. if I remember right.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And so we'll have to talk to about his request for 15 minutes in front of his place. I think that's the only questions that we can answer right now, unless I'm missing some from the other board members. So, all right, no more.
Al, excuse me, Al, it's Trustee Murphy. I'm raising my hand, but I don't know exactly how we do this.
That's good.
Okay, I have a question for Debbie if she's there.
She's here.
My question to Debbie is, I'm hoping she can help us to understand what her plans are for the use of her fenced-in lot, and if you're intending for the patrons of either of your establishments to be able to park 24 hours within that fenced-in lot, because there's about 15 to 18 spaces in there.
Thank you for bringing that up. Well, I'm kind of waiting to see what you guys are going to answer me with. If with the new parking lot and this additional parking and other businesses that have recently opened, not required parking, and if I'm not going to, so if we're not going to need parking for our new businesses, that's what I'd like to know here. That was one of my questions. Maybe I didn't say it correctly or ask it correctly. So with the businesses that I want to put in 204, and now I have the parking lot there, if I'm not required to use it as a parking lot, maybe I would like to develop it. I don't know. So I'm looking to you guys for some, what's going to be required? Are we going to be required to have parking for businesses now? And if somebody says, you know, say I'm able to put a breakfast place in 204. I mean, the wine bar is in one part, but, you know, breakfast place also, do I need to supply my own parking? That's my question to you guys. And if you guys tell me, no, I'm not going to be required to have parking, yeah, I would probably like to develop that parking lot. So, and then I, of course, would be coming back to you guys and
yeah, looking for
direction.
As it is right now, correct me, somebody if I'm wrong, usually when a business opens, they are required to have some parking. But understanding though that area there, there's a very limited on space. So that would, if you wanted to do something in your empty spot of your building there, when you do address the parking, you have to come to the planning and zoning commission and talk to them about it and see if they would give you a variance or something on the clearing of parking.
Yeah.
I think I have that right, Manager Keener, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I can't answer your question right now.
I know. And with the COVID going on, who knows what's going where, but
right.
Looking forward, hopefully things will all get built out.
You'd have to go to planning and zoning and make the request. You have to go to planning and zoning and request on the parking.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions?
Trustee Murphy, did you have any more questions?
I don't have any other questions, but if you would be kind enough to facilitate and let us know at which point of the agenda you're looking for our input regarding any of these types of things, like the space in front of Tony's place and the requests, let me know if we're supposed to hold those until we get to the agenda.
Yeah, hold that till we get to the agenda item. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Is anyone else there? Any other questions mailed in, Manager Keener? Is that a no?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Then we'll move down to the amendments on the agenda. Do we have any amendments to the agenda from any of the board members? Seeing none, hearing none. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a proclamation to recognize Robyn Whitehurst in his stepping down from the Planning and Zoning Commission after 28 years. I'd like to make a few comments on Robyn Whitehurst, who has served on this for 10 consecutive terms as Commissioner of the Planning and Zoning Commission. He decided to step back from his role this year due to conflict with his business obligations. And Robyn served 27 years on the commission, 25 of which were chairman. In itself, that accomplishment is one of which we owe Mr. Whitehurst our most sincere appreciation. As an architect, Robyn has provided a unique perspective on the development proposals that have enhanced many a project. He has a keen eye for color, materials, scale that improves many of our projects that come before the Planning and Zoning Commission. His insight, breadth of knowledge, and keen personality have brought the unique and refreshing perspective to the Commission. On behalf of the Village Board and the entire Village of Villa Park community, I would like to thank you, Robyn, for your service, and we will miss you. I personally have been attending the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings for about 10 years now as my role as a trustee, and I can tell you all, Robyn was quite impressive in that position. I received a number of comments from petitioners, the wonderful job that he did in leading that commission. And if we really take a look around town, every improvement we see in Villa Park has Robyn's stamp on it. If I remember right, Robyn was on the commission when the Ovaltine property was being developed, which was a rather a hot topic at the time, and he handled that very well. But all the improvements around town, a lot of these to the credit of Robyn Whitehurst for his, as I said in the first remarks, on his insight and his knowledge of architecture, building materials, really helped shape what our business districts and North Avenue and Roosevelt Road and Villa Avenue, all our St. Charles, all have Robyn's stamp on them. So I too appreciate Robyn's work that he's done for our village. 28 years is a long time. I think he's probably one of the longest running commissioners that we have. And I would like to thank personally Robyn, and as a president of the village, thank him for his service, and he will be missed. Everybody served on the commission enjoyed working with him, as did our community development people. So thank you, Robyn, very much for all your work, and wish you the best. If you want to come back to the commission, just let me know. So thank you very much. So normally, if we were in the boardroom, we'll give you a round of applause. So thank you, Robyn. Okay, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. First item is the minutes from the board meeting held on April 27th, 2020. And the item 6B is the bill listing for the week of April 27th and May 5th, 2020, in the total amount of $712,037.32. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
I will make that motion.
Okay. Trustee Sala and Trustee Tucker second. Any questions?
I have one question.
Hearing none. Yes.
I have one question. Yes. Yeah. My one question is that in May, we always, for the police and the fire commission, is always when it comes up for them renewing or getting their allowance for their uniforms. Is that correct?
Yes. I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure,
that's
but
what I
we're
wanted.
talking about the consent agenda. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was talking about that. That is a running thing on our billing statement for May, that the police and fire annually get their allowance for the uniforms, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that was all I wanted to make sure. That is a normal running thing that we'll see that every year on that bill.
It's been on there every year as long as I've been on the board.
Okay.
So, okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, then we'll have a roll call, please.
President Boltis, I have a question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Bob.
Okay. And I apologize for not raising this earlier, but it's not my intention to nitpick or to micromanage, but I did notice that in the bill listing, we have an item where we probably all purchased through Shamrock Gardens, which is a florist in Lombard. And I would just like to offer to that, since we do have 2 florists in town, I would hope that we would try and patronize them whenever possible when it comes to the purchase of flowers, etc. I also have a question, or more of a question regarding the uniform allowance. Do we provide uniform allowances for non-union employees as well? Because I noticed there's community uniform allowances for employees in community development.
Manager Keener?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, we do. In fact, a perfect example would be uniform allowances for the fire chief, police chief, and we do for, I think, several employees in the community development department as well, yes.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, now we'll do a roll call.
Okay, Trustee Ecozone.
Yes.
Trustee Patrick.
Mute.
Trustee Patrick.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Tucker.
Yes.
Trustee Silella.
Yes.
President Boltis.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on. Those passed. We'll move on to item 7A, which is the first reading of an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, Dupage County, Illinois, amending the Village of Villa Park Municipal Code as it relates to parking restrictions. Manager Keenan.
Thank you, Your Honor. With the creation of a new village-owned parking lot at 110 South Villa Avenue and monitoring parking trends at existing parking lots on Park Boulevard and in other nearby areas, amendments to Village Code are recommended. Such changes include the imposition of overnight parking restrictions, relocation of certain handicap zones, and deletion and addition of certain no parking zones. It is also recommended that parking zones be established in order to allow for a vehicle to park in only one space within that zone for the time allotted during one 24-hour period. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, well, this being the first reading, we just for discussion. So any questions or comments or changes any of the board members want to make, now is your time. So, Trustees Ecozone.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. I had discussions with Tony Odo regarding his business there on Villa, and I'd agree with him, and I would like to see having a 15-minute parking in front of his business. I know before it was offered to give it to him at the end of that parking run there, but I think, most of the towns around us, Elmhurst, Lombard, Glen Ellen, they all have timed parking in front of certain businesses, particularly pizza places where you have a lot of in and out, where they go in for 5 minutes and come out. And I would be acceptable to having that in front of his business at 211 South Villa.
Now, if I remember right, when Tony requested that, he requested that for the period of time from 2 to 8 in the evening. Would you like to make that part of your recommendations or a motion if you're going to make one?
Yes, I'd make that as a motion, from 2 to 8, 15-minute parking in his, in front of his store.
Okay.
This is Trustee Murphy. Why are we changing it to 2? It was 4 to 8.
4:30.
4, yeah.
4:30.
Is it 4? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm looking through my paperwork here,
Okay.
and I didn't see it. So 4 to 8.
I thought it was 4, yeah, but 4 to, yeah. I'll make that motion for 4 to 8. They have a 15-minute parking in front of his business store.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Trustee Wagner, second? Okay. Any questions or comments on that motion?
No, this is Trustee Murphy. Can we do that on a trial basis, or once we change it, is it formalized?
Well, it'll be.
We get negative feedback from any of the local business owners. What repercussion do we have if we voted in tonight?
Well, we're not voting it in tonight. It's just a change in it. So the final vote is at our next week, Monday. Anything can be changed by a new ordinance. So does anybody know if there were any negative comments in the past when that sign was put up for temporarily?
This is Trustee Murphy. It's my understanding there were, however, it was my understanding also that the negativity about that was the fact that the space was not in front of that business. So I would be for it, for at least trialing it out in front of the business and see how it goes.
Is there any, Chief Lay, is there any stipulation about can it be in front of his business specifically, Chief? Do you know, is there any problem with that?
Yes, it can be in front of his business. It will be a little bit more difficult to enforce along with the other enforcement measures that we're hoping to put into place.
And what would make it harder to enforce if it's got a time limit on it?
Because what we're trying to put in place with a license plate reader system will allow us to set up certain zones. And basically what we're looking at is to set up a certain zone for 3-hour parking on one side of the street and 30 minutes on the other side of the street. It will not allow us, as my understanding, to single out certain spaces along that side of the street for other individual parking time limits.
So it'd be, again, we'd be back into an enforcement problem?
Potentially.
Yeah. In a little side note, could you explain a minute what you mean by zones? Because Mr. Otto's questioned what a zone is.
A zone is basically whatever area you want to establish as an enforcement area. So like I was saying, we can have Villa, the portion that is for 3-hour time limit will be established as a zone and issued a certain zone number, which would go into our computerized license plate reader system. And then the other side, the east side, would be designated as a 30-minute zone with a different setting within that system.
So with that system, apparently we'd have difficulty programming that system to make accommodations for a 4 to 8 p.m. Zone in front of his business?
I don't know that it's specific enough to allow us to specify one spot or 2 spots within a zone itself. I think you're creating a zone within a zone, and I don't know if that's possible. I can research that more tomorrow.
Okay.
This is Trustee Murphy. Can you remind me again, is it Tony's side of the street proposed for 30-minute currently?
I didn't.
The whole side of that street?
The 30 minutes is on the west side, if I remember right, and the east side is 3 hours, right, Chief?
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I was hoping for the opposite. Never mind.
So, okay, well, the question is to, but the motion was to make an amendment to this that would allow for a 15-minute parking from 4 to 8 p.m. in front of Michael Anthony's Pizza. We'll have to get the address of that place to change it. And then, well, I guess that's where we're at right now. We just need, if any other comments on that motion.
This is Trustee Tucker.
Yes.
I have a question to ask. We've got the signs put up for the 30-minute parking. Could we have the signs put up for a 15-minute parking in that area? Would that assist just for resident purposes to have it put out from 4 to 8? You know, just the bulletin board sign that it would be for 15 minutes. That might be a question for Chief, would that help at all? I realize it's going to be hard for you to enforce it, but is it an ability to have the owner to put, for Michael Anthony to put a sign out in that spot where it says 15 minutes?
I think your question is, would that be legal?
Right.
Like a board sign?
Right.
Chief?
We provided Tony with a sign for that purpose. I'm not sure how it worked out, but without it being in the ordinance, we are unable to enforce any violations of that 15-minute designation.
And the other question is, can we put a signage in that spot that says from 4 to 8? I believe Tony asked for 4:30, but we're going from 4 to 8, from what? For 7, a sign on that particular spot that says from 4:30 to 8, it's 15-minute parking.
Yeah. Can we put a sign out there? Yes.
So, because normally we have the 3-hour parking on that side, would we be able to put a different sign on that one particular one that says from 4 to 8, it's 15-minute parking only?
Yes. Just like you see, you go downtown somewhere, they have a no parking loading zone signs in front of certain businesses. So that probably could be done with a sign.
Okay, because normally it would be 3 hours in that spot from 9 to 4 o'clock. They could park there for the 3-hour period. But after that point, from 4 to 8, it would be 15 minutes. I didn't know if we could put a sign to state that.
Thank you. You can put a sign to state that.
Okay.
President Poltis?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of that 15-minute parking. I think by giving the patrons of that restaurant a place to get in and get out would alleviate them taking a potential parking spot for someone looking for a half an hour or 3-hour parking spot. So again, I would be in favor of a quick in and out 15-minute parking in front of Michael Anthony's.
Well, you know, if the board wants to do it, I don't have any trouble with it either. When I come there, I usually park in the lot across the street and just walk across. I didn't find it all that hard to do. If there's a spot, sometimes very rarely do I have not been able to find a place to park to pick up a pizza. So, but whatever the board decides, that's why we're here. So, anyone else?
Yes, this is Trustee Murphy. The only comment I want to make, and I am for it as well, but based on the feedback from Chief Lay, you know, we've had a lot of discussions and input from the business owners regarding the 30-minute parking and the enforcement or lack of. We're being advised right now that it's very probable or it may be very difficult to enforce that. I have no problem putting it in there, but don't want to hear it come back to us if in fact people park there and we're having trouble enforcing it. Then, you know, I don't know what we can do about it. You know, I'm more than happy to put the sign up, but if someone parks there and doesn't move in 15 minutes and the new equipment won't enforce it, I hate for the board to be held accountable for it. I mean, Tony, we're willing to give it a shot.
We're willing to give it a shot, but Tony's got to understand, we're not going to be driving by there every 15 minutes to check it. So there may be some violation, but as long as he understands that.
Exactly.
Anyone else?
No, this is Trustee Tucker. We're only speaking of that change right now, or are we speaking about?
That's the motion right now, just for that one.
Okay.
Okay, hearing no other comments, let's have a vote on that required, on that motion, okay?
Trustee Patrick,
Yes.
Trustee Tucker,
Yes.
Trustee Silella,
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Ecozone,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
President Bolfus.
It's a yes. Well, hopefully that'll work out. If it's not, doesn't, we have some other complaints from the other businesses. We'll have to address it then. So, okay. Any other questions on the proposal on the ordinance?
Yes, this is Trustee Tucker.
Go ahead, Trustee.
I would like to remove the no parking on Wildwood on the north side of the street from Monterey to 83, for the simple fact that Rotary Park is a rental park. If we restrict that parking there, there's only 19 spots. And Rotary Park was one of the parks that was laid out in the Park and Recreation master plan to redevelop with that, what is it called? Water zone in the middle.
Yes.
There was a plan set up to do that to redevelop that park. If we restrict it, that parking, there will be no parking for the residents that rent that area, first of all, or anyone that uses that park for the development of, there's a proposal to have a launching area there for canoes and kayaks. There was a proposal set up in the Park and Rec thing to put a walking path around there and develop that area once that water retainment got finalized. So if we remove the parking from that area from the corner to 83, there won't be any overflow parking. So I'm requesting it to be removed, that it won't be no parking on that north side of that street. I can understand the south side, but the north side, they need some overflow.
Why don't we ask the manager and chief of why they decided to remove parking on the north side there?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I believe that was because of the relocation of AK mulch and truck traffic going down in that area, being able to pull in and pull out of the new business onto I think that was something that Public Works had desired. Thank you, Your Honor.
So those large trucks that AK mulch being able to get down the street and swing to get into their lot, is that the thinking?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
This is Trustee Murphy. If I could just make a comment, I have no druthers either way for the most part. My original thought process was going to be to recommend leaving the parking on, I'm going to look at it from a Wildwood perspective, which would make it the south side and making the north side no parking. However, in discussions with Manager Keener, I believe I was advised that they're considering an access and egress from that new lot onto Wildwood, which was one of the reasons why they were recommending that one side become no parking. I did also talk to a truck driver who was making a delivery behind the Ace Hardware building and asked his perspective on the trucks coming in and out of that back side of the Ace Hardware. And he said he didn't have a problem, but he said the bigger trucks do have a problem, but they would prefer, it would be easier for them if we do remove it in, as it states in the proposal, and leave it on the other side of the street, which is the way it's currently proposed. But Manager Keener, can you help us to understand, is one of the reasons why we are recommending removal because there will be an access and egress, and maybe that might reduce the number of spaces even if we were to leave parking on that side?
Yes, I can address that. So if you take a look at the proposed Villa Avenue parking district map on the new 110 South Villa parking lot, on Wildwood, on the south side of Wildwood, there will be ingress and egress to Wildwood from the new parking lot. And to be able to accomplish that, there won't be enough turning radius to go east or west onto Wildwood with parked cars there. So the whole idea is to remove parking from behind the businesses all the way to the corner where Myrtle is, so that the ingress and egress has enough turning radius. Thank you.
This is,
Go ahead, Trustee.
I have a question. If it's AK Mulch's problems with their trucks going in, isn't there not an entrance on the other side of that lot that they could have the trucks going that way?
Yep.
I can't remember what street that is, but can I not use the other side? There is an entrance on both sides of that lot, if I remember correctly, unless they blocked it off. That they could use
the other side,
the south side of that for the trucks, or to go to make a circle instead, rather than remove the north side of that street because they can't get their big trucks through. I can understand limiting the spots on the north side, that so they can make the turn where the parking lot is, but I don't believe we should take all those parking places, for the fact that our residents should have a right to park if they rent that area. We're taking away a rental area, a use for rental of a park, or parking for people to use that park.
This is Trustee Murphy. The one thought prior to having the knowledge that we were going to put an access and an egress in for the quote unquote AK Mulch lot, my thought process behind leaving the spaces on that side is that if you go over there and look at them, the front end of those spaces and the back end of those spaces abut into a curb. So that whole side of the street, as it relates to the parking, is almost an inlet. It's not a through street, where the opposite side of the street, it's through street. So all the parking on the other side is completely opened from a driving perspective. I would really prefer to not see parking on both sides, but had I not known about the access and egress issue, I would have left the parking on the side that Cheryl's referencing and taken it away on the alternative side. Would have been my...
I think we have a little confusion here. Cheryl's talking about the no parking on the north side on Wildwood from Monterey to Route 83. Is that right, Cheryl?
That is correct. I'm talking about the short part at Rotary Park, from basically from the house, there's a house on the corner, from the house to the west part of that parking lot to allow parking places, which would probably be maybe 5 spots that we're talking about. And then I have no problem us restricting it from that west part of the parking lot to 83 so that they can get the trucks out on the turn, because that should be enough spot to do that. If we need to move it forward, that's fine. But I would like to see parking from the west side of the parking lot exit to the house on the corner. I believe there's a house on the corner there, just to their backyard. So yes, 5 spots that we would be allowing on that side. And the reason for it is that way kids can get out on the side where the park is and not have to cross the street. So the south side of the street, I can understand the no parking. So it makes it easier for the trucks to get in. And then allowing the turn right there, there should be enough spot to allow those big trucks to make that turn in that area from the west side of that parking lot to 83.
I sort of agree with you, Cheryl. I don't see a need to remove all the parking on the north side there. If they have to move the no parking a little bit farther to the east to where the entrance is to the parking lot that's on the north side. Maybe that, but the whole length there. There are some cars that park there on a regular basis, and they always have. I know there's a number of people from AK Mulch now parking in the park's parking lot. So that's another issue we'll have to deal with. But we'll see what do the other board members think about that item on the agenda for Wildwood, the north side from Monterey to Route 83. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you. I spent some time in that area, and I, just as you noticed, that parking lot for Rotary Park is pretty full, and I'm assuming those are AK Mulch employees. I'm not sure if that's a correct assumption or not. The other thing that I noticed is there's a lot of bicycle traffic and runners who are coming off the Greenway and then heading down Wildwood south on Monterey to the Prairie Path. So whatever we can do to make that safer, my concern is that we might have problems here. So I'm not quite sure what the solution is, but I think eliminating some of the parking along Wildwood from Monterey, Route 83 is appropriate. Whatever we can do to make it safer, I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, I didn't think about the bicyclists changing from one path to the other there. And I could see where that could be a little bit of an issue too. So,
yeah, there are also runners that do that too.
Yeah, so.
I did take that in consideration.
Okay.
Trustee Tucker, that's why I said I picked the short part from there to the parking lot, the west part of the parking lot, because it is visible for people to do it in that area. And I both bike and run. So that's why I did not want it to go the full extent, because if you did, you wouldn't be able to see. But if you take it from that area of the west part of the parking lot, the exit of the parking lot to that home, there's enough sight to be able to do it. If you allow it to the corner, that would be another problem. That's why I want to stop it before it hits the corner of Monterey. That's why I only want the short part. Because that area, in the limited time that we'd actually have people probably parking there for rental of the rental, it's not going to be unless AK Mulch uses it for their employees, it's probably not going to be used as often as you think it is. But I do want to give that alternative for in the summer when people do use that park to play in it or have picnics in it.
Well, let me add this. Now, if we look at the ordinance as it's proposed here, it says Wildwood Avenue north side from a point 350 feet east of the east right-of-way line of Monterey Avenue. So from Monterey to, if I'm reading this right, from Monterey for 350 feet.
305 feet.
305 feet, there would be parking available there. But after that 305 feet heading east, there would be no parking. Am I reading that right? It's under the section, add the following no parking zones. So it looks like, if I read that right, that way, it looks like it's doing what Cheryl requesting, because 305 feet is quite a long distance there. Am I reading that correctly as everybody else sees it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking, it looks like that's what you were asking for, Cheryl. I didn't think of that, Robbie. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, because I thought it was only, and maybe I didn't figure enough footage, because I kind of thought it was from the corner point to the end of the house would be that distance for no parking. but if it's actually would extend it farther, then it's probably what you are correct that I did it for, because it didn't sound like that from when I read it. It seemed like taking away that side, the north side of the parking.
It is a little confusing, but I just reread it, and I think 305 feet that's a pretty good distance. So our normal lots are maybe what, 50 by 100, so it's a number of lots. So does anybody else have any comments on that? I think if that's okay for Cheryl, we can just leave it as it's written. So unless Bob, if you want to if we have any other agreements with Bob and eliminating all the parking on the north side of the street there.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm not sure it's necessary to all the parking. I think we'll have to keep a close eye on this. The times that I visited the area, a lot of bicycle traffic, maybe because a lot of people are looking for some sort of recreational activity while they're, to make that safer.
Okay. Anyone else have anything?
I have another proposal.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to put the request out, and we probably have to look into this, on the parking places in front of the rental units from Villa to Oakland. I'd like to throw out there that we make those parking places like pass parking, like we do the metro station, for the simple fact that the business district people don't use that lot. And the people that use the Rotary Park across the street do not use that lot either. So I'd like to propose that, seeing we know it's mostly the rental people that are using it, to make a proposal to make it easier for the police department to monitor it. If we make it a pass parking or like the metro lot, then they could monitor what cars are in there. And it may make just a little fundraiser, a little money for the rest of us to keep up the Villa district parking and take care of those too. I don't know how much money we'd make off of it, but seeing I don't think we're gonna, Villa Business District doesn't usually use that lot, and it's an issue for the police department to monitor it. If we made it like, and we could do it as a trial basis, my proposal is to make it like the pass parking at the metro station instead.
Well, I'm sort of thinking that might be a little more work than it's worth, but I was wondering if we would make, if you want to look about making some money, maybe we'll make more money if we make it no parking from 2 to 6 a.m. and just give them tickets if there's cars in there. That might be a better, easier revenue generator if that's what you're looking for. So.
I wasn't looking as a revenue thing. I was making it more an easier way for the police department to monitor it with a new system they've got. They could monitor what cars were actually in that area instead, as an easier source to monitor what was there, and to help with, you know, our tow truck that seems to want to park there during the day. That we could make, you know, some type of revenue off of the rental of those spots. If the residents in the apartment complex want to use our parking lot, because that was not what we had intended it for.
Trustee Wagner.
Yeah, just a clarification. So Trustee Tucker is referring to the parking spaces that are on the south side of Park, east of Villa?
That's correct.
Okay.
So anybody else have any comments on that? Any, well, seeing it, hearing no other support, Cheryl, I think we'll probably just leave it as it is, okay? I think if we put the no parking signs up there between 2 and 6, we'll see what happens. I think that'll take care of the parking problem right then, so. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, President Bullfus. I just want to make a comment that with regards to something that Ms. Gabriel said, the work on the traffic flow around fuel creme is an ongoing effort, and it was my understanding that the last time that the Traffic and Safety Commission met, that the staff liaison, Kevin Mantles, indicated that we had kind of a study of the traffic, volume, speed, etc. It was within an acceptable range, but we were going to follow up to do it during the peak period because it was done kind of late in the fall. So I just want to offer that comment. And I also wanted to thank Trustee Murphy for the legwork she did soliciting input from businesses in the Villa Avenue Business District. And that's all I have.
Okay.
This is Trustee Murphy. If I could just make a comment, and there are two other separate area issues I'd like to address, but with respect to Central, and I guess first and foremost, I'd like to thank anyone that's provided input, be it at a meeting or email or verbally, with respect to everything that's happening down there. And we're working very hard to take everyone's input into consideration. Our primary objective at the moment is the regulation map and how the parking relates to the regulation map and its changes. The majority of the input that we received back was extremely valuable, very super, but much of it is outside the scope of the regulations, and we still need to continue to address many of those issues, and we plan to do that. With respect to Central, it's a tricky one, and there's still discussion underway with respect to the traffic flow down there. And until that is addressed, Angie and Tony, there are people who are hoping part of that's going to turn one way. If, in fact, the formal decision is to turn a portion of that one way, then parking on Central and the decisions associated with it could very well change. There's requests for a three-way stop sign. There are things under consideration that are outside the scope of our regulation map. So for the sake of what we're hoping to accomplish with the regulation map, right now, my feeling is we're pending a lot of the finite decisions on the parking on Central until some of those other issues have been resolved. In the meantime, with the current flow of the traffic around Central, I'm in agreement that we should continue to move forward with removing those front spaces, knowing that we're very close to opening a fair amount of spaces in the new lot. And I'm not adverse to Tracy's recommendation to removing all the parking on Central, because I do think that we currently have a danger down there. But right now, a lot of that is pending. I mean, it's pending some major decisions on what's going to happen with the traffic flow down there.
Thank you for that. So, anyone else have any comments on this proposed parking map?
This is Trustee Murphy again. I just have two to throw out there based on input that we received back. We had a request for additional 24-hour parking down there, and Debbie came out tonight to ask us again about it. If in fact that were under consideration, I would be proposing, if anyone else wants to chime in, that if we were to do that, it would singly and solely be approximately 7 spaces right outside the DeMitos building across from the post office. And again, the perspective is right now, pending Debbie's decision on the use of her own lot, I would be hopeful that she would use that for her businesses. It would help everyone in the surrounding area and perhaps give her some 24-hour parking that she's requesting. But if she's asking for village spaces, my recommendation would be those 7 spots at a maximum. The other thing that was brought forth is a potential of changing the timing on the spots directly across from the depot stage that are currently no parking 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. to making approximately 4 of those spaces 30 minutes only to help facilitate the short-term people that are coming in and out of there. We've had discussion about the striping. It's my understanding if that were to be striped, then we have to accommodate handicap parking and we would lose some of those spots. So I don't know that striping is our best alternative. And I understand that if we were to decide to change those spaces to 30 minutes only, it could impact the business owners in the Kenilworth building, but hopefully encourage more of the longer term parking people, be it the employees or the restaurant people that are going to be there longer than an hour, to transition over to the AK mulch lot. I personally have no agenda on either of these two issues. Whatever the board decides is fine with me.
Any comments on those two items on the 7 spots behind Demito's? I believe, are those village-owned spots, manager and chief? Cortese?
Reiner, I don't recall, but it's quite a possibility that they are village lots, but we can verify and let you know.
Okay.
Trustee Tucker here. Are we talking about the lots by that are across the street by the Allstate building on the one side? Are we talking about those 7 spots, which are the village lot, or because there's 7 on one side of that parking lot, and actually there's 14 in that area. There's 7 on the side where the Allstate building is, and there's 7 on the side where the entrance for Cortese Park. Are we talking about the parking spots at Cortese Park?
No, I'm thinking of the spots that actually abut directly into Demito's that are just, where am I?
Patio.
Right.
So you're talking about the ones across from outside the patio on the side where the post office is?
No, the other side, on the Demito side.
Okay. Are those actually ours, or are they Demito's?
They're not Demito's, I don't think.
They're the villages, but I would certainly want clarification on that. Debbie, if Debbie's still there, she may be able to help us.
Is Debbie running up to the mic there?
Oops.
Hold it. We can't hear you, Deb. Okay, go ahead now.
Okay. The parking spots that are right next to my fence, that's my property. Or that's my property, yeah. The ones across by the post office, I thought those were the ones you were talking about.
No, I'm talking about the ones on your side.
I can't hear you.
Oh.
The ones where they nose into your fence.
That's my property.
Right.
That's what I thought.
So you have the option to make those 24 hours.
Well, they're my property, so I have that option to make them 24 hour.
Correct. That would be my recommendation for 24 hours would be those spaces. And that's your decision.
They are my property.
Exactly.
But what I'm asking is if we could make some of the other parking spots 24 hours besides just over by the old museum.
Yeah, I would be opposed to that. I think we have plenty of options on your property for 24-hour spaces, and we're getting some negative feedback from other business owners who are preferring that we don't have cars parked 24 hours in some of the alternative lots.
So then do you think we should have 24-hour parking by the museum?
It's my understanding, and President Bolthus can help with this, was my understanding there are apartments above some of those buildings that have no parking, which is why that museum lot is 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
That's what I understand.
Any other questions?
Marlon
Not
Hummel lived upstairs there, if I remember right, and then they would use the park in the museum lot. That's why the ones in the museum lot are on the end are 24-hour parking.
I was looking at the new map, and it looked like it said the whole area would be 24 hours, but maybe I misunderstood it.
Yeah, it doesn't go all the way up to Villa. So, and as far as the map, the parking on Cortese behind you, we have the red line that means no parking, but that's just on the village street, not on Debbie's property. So.
Yeah.
Any other input from the trustees on thoughts about making the one side of the street 30-minute parking across from the stage?
The only comment I have on that is I know some of the businessmen who are in the Kenilworth building there park over there. So if they have any clients or customers come in, they're able to park on Myrtle over there. So
yeah, and I would agree, but they're taking up 2 spaces. Would there be a reason that we shouldn't be hopeful for them to transition to the AK mulch lot?
No.
I don't care either way, but if anyone else, the 30-minute spaces there, if we were to try them, would be helpful to Pioneer and potentially any other short-term shoppers that come in and out of there, and hopefully would help facilitate that some of the people that are going to be spending more time there would park in the AK mulch lot. I have no druthers, so I was just looking for input from any of the other board members.
Anybody else have anything on that?
We do have, as you say, from a parking lot perspective, you have the 8 parking spots on across from the western path on the backside of our parking lot that they could easily use at the same thing. It's the same distance of where you're speaking of. All they would have to do is park in the 8 spots by the CB building and walk down the path to Pioneer. So that's another option rather than change the 30-minute parking on that spot.
Well, they can also park in the new parking lot and just walk down the sidewalk across the path, and they're at Pioneer.
Correct. Rather than make, the reason I say that is because we used to have a car event on that, and it's very difficult if you put cars on the south side of that lot, the north side of the Cortese Park, but south side of it's very hard to make the turn if there are cars in that area. So we had, and they also go over the path. Sometimes park too far for the bike path, which causes problems with people that try to put strollers and bikes through there. If you put parking place on that side, if you make that 30-minute parking. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, I don't care. They're already parking there anyway, so it's just a matter of how long you're going to let them park. I have no druther either way. If we don't have a majority of the board that thinks it's a good idea to trial 30 minutes, then the best alternative would be to leave it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just one other comment that was brought to us, particularly, I don't think it's bad to say it came from Fuel and Cream, but and perhaps this is their alternative discussion with respect to Central, but they did request that it might be helpful to relocate the no parking here to corner signs that are on Myrtle and Central back one respective parking space on each of those 2 streets to open that intersection up a little bit. They thought if we were to stretch those out a little bit farther, we'll lose 2 parking spaces, but they, from their perspective, will gain additional visibility and safety for pedestrians and traffic. So if anyone has any thought process on that, we're here to entertain it.
I would agree with that, Trustee Murphy. Absolutely.
Well, I don't agree with that right now. If he wants to open up that intersection, he can lower those planters he has in front of his eating area over there. So when somebody's pulling out on Myrtle, you can actually see to the east what's coming because those planters are way too high. So that's more of a problem than one parking space on the west side, in my opinion. So
I don't have a druther either way. Based on that, and that's all the input that I had from the people in that area, it's sounding like, if I'm understanding, unless someone else has some input, the only proposed change we have then is the parking space in front of Tony's?
That's all I'm hearing. Okay, nothing else? Then we'll move that on to a second reading, which will be next Monday, with just the change of the parking place in front of Michael Anthony's Pizza. The staff can get the address and the location for our next meeting. Okay. All right, we're going to move on now to the item number 8A, which is the second and final reading of an ordinance amending Appendix C of the Village Code of the Village of Villa Park, Dupage County, Illinois, by deleting section 6.4.7.8.3 and making a separate use for currency exchange, a special, separate. I think that's supposed to be a special use, isn't it, Manager Keener?
For a separate use for currency exchanges, Your Honor.
Is that correct? Okay. A separate use for currency exchange under the new section 6.4.7.c. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The petitioner is seeking to move its currency exchange business into Villa Park, but not into an industrial district as is required by Village Code. The proposed code amendment considers currency exchanges as separate uses rather than being associated with uses such as pawn shops, title loan offices, payday loan offices, and cash for gold locations. At its regular meeting on April 9, 2020, following a public hearing in which one person spoke in support of the request, the Zoning and Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend a text amendment making currency exchanges a permitted use in the C3 Service Business District only. Thank you, Your Honor.
Do I have a motion for the final reading?
President, I'd like to make that motion.
Trustee Ecozone, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Ecozone?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes, but that passes. And welcome to Villa Park. I don't know what the name of the currency exchange is, but welcome to Villa Park. Item 8B is a second and final reading of an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, amending Chapter 2, Section 2-406 of the Municipal Code relating to the first reading of ordinances. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. Village Code currently dictates that any time a modification to code is recommended, such action must be taken in 2 separate readings by the Village Board public meeting. The proposed ordinance modification allows some flexibility in the passage of ordinances for codification, allowing the board to waive the requirement of a second reading if a majority votes in favor of such action. It may be helpful with general housekeeping items, for example, the occasion in which village code must be modified in accordance with state code. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for the final reading?
Make that motion, Mr. President.
Trustee Silella, second. Who's second?
I'll second that.
Trustee Ecozone, second. Okay. Any questions or comments? Trustee Tucker?
I just want clarification again on the reading. If I understand correctly, we're going to do the first reading on the day of it as if we would normally have done for any proposal. And then after we do the discussion on the first reading, then we will vote to waiver the second reading. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is correct, right?
Yes.
That is what I thought you had clarified me before. I just want to make sure that is the true discussion. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Was that a yes? Trustee Patrick?
Yes, that was a yes.
Thank you. Trustee Salela?
Yes.
Trustee Ecozone?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to number 9A, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, Dupage County, Illinois, establishing temporary executive powers pursuant to Chapter 8, Section 3, Section 8-301 to 308 of the Villa Park Municipal Code and 65 ILCS 5/11-1-6 of the Illinois Municipal Code and 20 ILCS 305-11 of the Illinois Emergency Management Act. This ordinance extends the temporary executive power contained in the Ordinance 4145, approved by the Village Board on April 27th, 2020, until such time as the Village Board can reconvene and at an open meeting. Do I have a motion for the ordinance?
President Bolfus, I'll make that motion.
Trustee Wagner, do you have a second?
Trustee Murphy, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Salela?
Yes.
Trustee Ecozone?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes, that passes. We'll move on to 9B, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving a first amendment to the redevelopment agreement by and between the Village of Villa Park and Kenilworth Townhomes, LLC. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. On March 25th, 2019, the Village Board approved a redevelopment agreement with Kenilworth Townhomes, LLC for the development of the property on Kenilworth Avenue just west of Cortese Veterans Memorial Park. The developer has requested the $50,000 incentive payment for the completion of the first 2 townhomes with certificates of occupancy. The village is unable to fulfill this request as the redevelopment agreement has specific dates that have not been met. Staff recommends amending certain dates within the redevelopment agreement so it's more realistic, which would provide the developer encouragement to keep moving this important development forward in a timely manner. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for the ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Wagner, second.
I'll second that.
Trustee Ecozone, okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
Trustee Tucker?
Yes, trustee.
Okay, I have just one question. If, seeing we can't decide if COVID-19 is going to go until the end of 2020, I'm just curious to know if this developer is going to be able to have enough funds if we provide this leadway for him to finish the project in the time fashion he has, if by chance it does lead to the end of this year. Because I would hate to have him come back again and ask for another extension of his plans because he cannot fund things. We've already gone through that with enough developers in this town, so I do not want to see it happen again.
Manager Keener?
Hello?
Yes.
This is John Curtis.
Okay. You represent the...
I'm the developer.
Okay, go ahead.
We're fully funded already. I mean, the TIP is just an incentive to hit things, and our funding is already in place. We, the construction loans, all the equity, everything is 100% in place to do the project. So we're in excellent position financially to complete the project, and the incentives are obviously welcome to keep things moving forward in a timely fashion. But I do have to say that with the COVID-19, even though we can complete the project, obviously our sales are at a slower pace than what was originally anticipated. So as far as selling out the project and completing all sales, is definitely going to be dependent upon the reopening of the economy, essentially, from the COVID-19 situation.
Trustee Tucker, you have anything else?
Yes, so if I understand you correctly, the building or the construction of the townhouses is not the issue. It's the occupancy of it that you may not be able to fill it on the dates that we're now changing it to.
That is correct. I mean, unfortunately, prior to the lockdown, we were at, probably 6, 7, 8 showings a week. And then after that, we're probably, for the last month, we've had like 3. So the sales will definitely be hindered by the COVID-19.
So basically, he, Trustee, as I understand it, he has all the financing in place, the loans to finish the construction. So that'll continue. It's just his challenge is to get the buyers now. So.
Understand. I just wanted clarification. I have no more questions on that.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, have a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Ecozone?
Yes.
President Bolthus?
Yes. And good luck. I hope things pick up on your sale there and your showings. So,
So do I.
We'd all like to see it filled up. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, item 10A is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, Dupage County, Illinois, approving the execution of a settlement agreement in Farrell versus the Village of Villa Park, 19-CV-608. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village has been named in a class action lawsuit related to the common parking enforcement practice of chalking tires to determine how long a vehicle has been parked. This lawsuit is a direct result of chalking tires in the South Villa Avenue Business District and alleges that the practice constitutes an unreasonable search of personal property. Part of this class action lawsuit is insurable through our insurance carrier, IRMA. Our legal counsel provided by IRMA recommends that the village settle the lawsuit and has been working with opposing legal counsel to finalize the process. On Monday, May 4th, 2020, the court issued preliminary approval of the terms of the agreement. Village Board approval of the preliminary agreement is necessary in order to begin the settlement process. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Do I have a motion for a resolution?
I'll make that motion, Mr. President.
Trustee
I'll second.
Trustee Wagner, second. Any questions or comments from the board?
This is Trustee Tucker.
Yes.
I do not have, I do have something I'd like to read, if that is okay.
Well, it's your time.
Okay. I can't believe I have to vote on this for the residents of Villa Park because of some people do not have the respect to follow the signs for the parking that were set up to help the businesses on Villa Avenue and the residents of Villa Park. This was not an action taken to make money for the village, but rather a way for the Villa Park Police Department to fulfill a promise they made to the business owners in the Villa Avenue area to help enforce the parking restrictions. I do not see why the village would have to take away from the redevelopment of the area to spend money to put up parking meters because a small group of people do not believe they have to follow the parking restrictions put there to help out the businesses in the area. As you can see by 7A and 7C on the agenda tonight, the village board and the Villa Park Police have been trying to help the Villa Business District with parking. But it's hard to do that when the legal system makes it difficult for our police department to enforce the parking sometimes. Thank you for the opportunity to read that. I needed to say that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
This is Trustee Murphy. I just have a question for clarification, if we could, please. I'm all for settling that suit, but I would like to get confirmation, if I could, that we've attempted to settle that without the need to pay the $14,000 back to the people. I am really adverse to condoning bad behavior by giving them their money back. However, I also understand that further litigation could cost us more than the $14,000 that we're suggesting we should refund. But I would like confirmation from someone that we at one point tried to settle without refunding that ticket money.
Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I understand it, I believe we did some time ago, and this lawsuit is from October of 2019, and even the 75% of the negotiated amount to return to the folks was also agreed upon and discussed and et cetera, Your Honor. And we do happen to have our legal counsel on with us this evening. If you would like him to make some comments, Your Honor.
Certainly. This is Brandon Lemley. With respect to the negotiations that have taken place on this settlement agreement, we did initially attempt to settle at a lower percentage rate. Over the course of various conversations that we had with the plaintiff's counsel, we ended up ending up at the 75% rate. It's important to note that this is the rate with respect to class members who actually submit a claim. Typically in class action litigation, you are not going to have 100% of the claimants actually submitting a claim. Frequently the rate is much, much, much lower than that. So the ceiling in terms of the village's exposure is ultimately $14,600. However, we don't expect the village to actually be paying that amount of money with respect to a class action settlement.
This is Trustee Murphy. I have one other question. Is it my understanding that a precedent has been set on this issue with a case in another state? So we're feeling we have a relatively low probability of winning this if we were to choose to continue to move forward.
So the case is a copycat, if you will, of another case that started out of Saginaw, Michigan. Almost identical facts in that case. The parking enforcement agents placed a chalk mark on tires, just as occurred here. That case was initially dismissed. It went up on appeal. This is a federal case. It went up on appeal to the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit in Michigan. And the court decided that the physical touching of the tire with chalk constituted a search under precedent from the U.S. Supreme Court in United States versus Jones, which dealt with placing a GPS tracking chip on a vehicle. There are other decisions from other courts. The Fifth Circuit has said that actually physically tapping a tire to see if there are drugs within it would constitute a search under the Fourth Amendment. And all of this ultimately implicates the need for a warrant or a warrant exception. It's not to say that the likelihood of success is low, but it certainly puts us working at a disadvantage, having sort of adverse precedent, though not binding, out there. The other cases we've been able to find where a class action lawsuit has been filed, where motions to dismiss have been briefed, none of them have been successful after this opinion, Taylor versus Saginaw, Michigan, out of the Sixth Circuit.
Thank you.
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
So I noticed that there is a group that will be administering the settlement and that they are receiving some fee for that. Is that customary for that to happen?
Yes, I mean, we had an option of having the village staff administer the class action settlement, and in discussions with village staff, they decided that it sounded like it was too much effort to do that. Essentially, what is required is not only sending out notices, so there will be, I'm rounding here, 450 class notices that'll be going out to the class members, advising them of their rights and their options and providing them with a claim form that they can submit. Then once those claim forms start coming in, you process, make sure everyone is a member of the class who's entitled to a recovery. And ultimately, once the class action settlement is approved, you have to issue all the checks, mail those as well, and deal with return mail. What I can tell you is I did get quotes from various other third-party class action administrators. The quote that I received from First Class Inc. was, all told, probably around $3,500, $1,700 for the initial notice, another $1,700 for the subsequent mailing of the checks. In contrast, the next closest bid was $15,000. Okay. So First Class was 5 times cheaper than the next cheapest.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you for those comments. Yeah, it seems like this is the easiest and the most expedient way to get this off our plate. So, not hearing any other comments, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Trustee Patrick.
Yes.
Trustee Ecozone.
Yes.
Trustee Tucker.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Silella.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Begrudgingly, yes.
President Bolfus.
Yes, and thank you for the comments. I forgot the attorney's name, but thank you for that. We'll move, that passes, so we'll move on to 10B, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, Dupage County, Illinois, approving an engineering service agreement with Edwin Hancock Engineering Company of Westchester, Illinois, for Phase 3 construction engineering of the Yale Avenue Improvement Project from Plymouth to Ridge in the amount not to exceed $99,948. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village advertised for bids for the Yale Improvement Project, Plymouth to Ridge, on April 20th, 2020. The scope of work includes roadway reconstruction, water main installation, adjustment of drainage structures, sidewalk removal and replacement, parkway restoration, and other related incidental work efforts. This resolution will approve a contract with Edwin Hancock Engineering Company for Phase 3 construction engineering of the project. Funding for the construction engineering work is budgeted in the Street Improvement Fund referendum, Water Supply Fund, and Wastewater Fund capital. Thank you, Your Honor.
Do I have a motion for the resolution?
To make that motion.
Trustee Wagner, do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Trustee Ecozone. Okay. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Patrick.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Silella.
Yes.
Trustee Tucker.
Yes.
Trustee Ecozone.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
President Bolfus.
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to 10C, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving the purchase of a mobile license plate recognition system through Vigilant Solutions, LLC, in the amount of $20,605. Manager Keener. Manager Keener, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Police Department consistently reviews enforcement procedures for parking restrictions throughout the community. Current procedures in heavily trafficked areas such as the Metro parking lots and the South Villa Avenue Business District have proven inefficient and ineffective, causing personnel to explore alternate methods of enforcement. A mobile license plate recognition system will allow for cameras to virtually monitor vehicles that are parked in time-restricted locations. And in the case of the Metro parking lots, license plates for proof of payment. It's recommended that a mobile license plate recognition system be purchased from Vigilant Solutions in the amount of $20,605. Funding for the purchase will be taken from capital outlay account number 10-520-09-401. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Murphy, second.
I'll second that.
Trustee Patrick, okay. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this a new standalone system, or is it going to piggyback onto our current system that we have in place?
We'll get the manager or the chief to answer that.
This is a new system, but it ties in or can tie in with the system that we have in place on our stationary cameras and vehicle camera already.
So it's more multi-use than strictly reading parking violations?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Wagner?
Will all our patrol vehicles be able to utilize, or is it just certain ones?
This is only going to be available on one vehicle.
One vehicle. Okay. That's all I have.
Question. Since we're not touching the vehicles, so obviously this would not be an illegal search using this. Has there been other court cases where this type of system has been challenged at all?
Not to my knowledge.
Anyone else?
Trustee Tucker, I just want to piggyback off of that. Is this company Virtual Solution, if we get into a court case with it, are they going to back their product? I'm concerned that we're going to turn around and end up with what we just had to vote on happening again with a residence bringing us to court. Is this going to protect us against this? Seeing it's a fairly new system, I realize that, and we have no proof that it's in court cases at this point that it will be submissible, if I'm understanding correctly.
This is the way of the future for monitoring parking violations. There are several agencies around the country that are using this. Some that were pointed out for the specific system are some of the bigger areas are in Austin, Texas, and Clearwater, Florida. And then there's a few others in the Chicago area that are moving to it as well, besides Schaumburg that already does have it.
Okay, but we have no proof that it has actually held up in court yet at this point.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
So, Chief, we're only getting putting this on one car, but I noticed in the literature that there's like 2 mounting brackets that we bought. That I was wondering so we're only getting one camera, I guess, to go on one car, or can that camera be switched from one car to another car if the one is down for repair or something?
No, there's actually 2 cameras for the one vehicle, so that it can capture the plates depending on how cars are parked, whether they're parallel parked, 90-degree angle, or at another angle.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Ecozone?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
President Bolthus.
Yes, that passes. And we'll move on to public comment on non-agenda items. Manager Keener, do we have any public comments on non-agenda?
Yes, we do, Your Honor. We have several comments. The first one is from Tony Logan. He says, Dear Keener, below is a statement for an update. Thank you for your help in advance. What is an update on local 501c3 organization, Villa Park Boxing Club? No one has reached out as of right now. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, well, I don't know, 501c3, that's up to him. I don't know how we have any involvement in that at all, so he has to follow through on that. I thought he already was a 501c3, so. Okay, well, who else do we have?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have one more from Joe Strum. Says the DuPage County is now averaging fewer than 10 COVID deaths per day. 80% of deaths are from nursing homes. That means 2 people in DuPage County die from COVID-19 every day who don't live in a nursing home. There are 1 million people in the country or county, 174 total deaths. That is a fatality of 0.00074 for the county. Why are those measures needed based on these statistics? Were you aware of these statistics? And so, why did you support them? If you do not, what do you plan to do to change these drastic measures that our governor has put in place? I would also like to know how many local businesses the village anticipates losing. I would also like to hear and every board member say whether or not they support the governor's policy and the grouping of our town being grouped together with Cook County, Restore Illinois Region 8. I am looking forward to each and every question being asked tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I have seen those same statistics, and the village, in conjunction with the DuPage mayors and managers, are working on seeing if we can get some changes through the governor's office. I agree, we should not be lumped in with the city of Chicago and Cook County because their numbers are much higher. We are different in DuPage County, so we are trying to work through that and sending and communicating with the governor to see if we can change some of his regulations in DuPage County. So we're working on that, but as of right now, there's nothing on that as we as of right now. Still in process, so hopefully we'll get some relief. I don't have any numbers on how many businesses I think will not survive the shutdown. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. So, was there another question on there, manager? I got the email here. Let's see. I support the statistics, like I said, and we're trying to work with the governor to, yeah, I think that pretty much answered his questions. So, and then he asked if any other board members had any comments. So. Other comments? Okay. Do we have any other ones?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the clerk's report. If the clerk has anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this Saturday is the Kiwanis fundraiser, Vidalia Onion fundraiser, and it's we've been selling it, so selling the onions, and this Saturday, the 16th, from 9 to 12, we will have the onions at St. Paul Lutheran Church parking lot at Ardmore in Washington. So people who've purchased need to come and pick up the bags. Hopefully they'll come. Or if you have made arrangements with whoever sold it to you, that's another story. If they're going to deliver it to you, But, you know, we're going to be very careful, make sure people sit in their cars, stay in their cars, get the onions given to them, maybe put in their trunk. But anyway, it's this Saturday, so hopefully all the people who purchase will come and pick up their bags. So thank you very much.
Okay, very good. We'll move on to the trustees report. Trustee Patrick, do you have anything? I see you're sitting in your backyard. Is the weather getting a little chilly out there?
It is. I had to put on the sweater here. It's getting a little cold. Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I just want to address the residents here and everybody else watching at home. I want to, again, thank all of our first responders, our essential workers and healthcare workers out there during this pandemic. It's not easy. It's not easy. You know, a lot of us have kids at homes. We're adjusting to working at home and all sorts of other things. It's not easy, but hang in there. We can all get through this together and have some hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Murphy?
Yes, I just have 3 quick ones. First and foremost, thank you to President Bolthus, Manager Keener, and all of our staff for everything that they're doing above and beyond their regular roles and responsibilities during this difficult and very stressful time. Secondarily, it's my understanding that this week, let me check the dates, the 10th through the 16th would be National Police Week. So thank you very much, Chief Lay, and all of the police officers that go above and beyond supporting us on a day-to-day basis, and the extra roles and responsibilities you've taken on to support our birthday parades that I'm seeing are happening quite frequently lately for many of our residents, be they old and young. And thirdly, just to note that the York Township Recycling Center is open. So anyone that's challenged to currently looking toward getting rid of their recycling, that York Township Recycling Center over behind Goodwill off of Roosevelt Road is open. It does have modified hours, but you can look at that facility if you'd like to take some things over. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, President Bolthus. I just have a couple things. I'm not sure if I can share my screen, but I have some websites I wanted to mention. Tri-Town YMCA is continuing with their distribution of food via bus routes. The last Monday that will occur will be this coming Monday. After that happens, they will be distributing food to those that need it at various school locations. And they are in need of volunteers and, of course, donations. And I'm going to hold this up. Hopefully you can see it. I don't know if you can or not. TritownYMCA.org. And they're also going to be doing a blood drive this week as well. So they continue to do great work in the community. They do need volunteers. I also wanted to mention an effort that was just undertaken, I guess led by our indomitable Al Stash. It's called VPGrubcrawl.com, and I'll hold that up as well. It's VPGrubcrawl.com. And what they're doing is they're trying to encourage residents to patronize our restaurants, particularly in a period from May 24th to June 6th. And they're kind of providing some incentives to folks who are frequent patrons of our restaurants. So if you go to VPGrubcrawl.com, they'll be having restaurants that are participating, and I think it's a nice effort to help our restaurants. I also want to mention the group, our DUCAP group, that's gotten started in Villa Park. They now
say that group again, Bob. Say that.
VP Grubcall or DUCAP?
DUCAP is,
yeah.
You broke up there, so.
I'm sorry, yeah. DUCAP, our DUCAP group is now going to be called Impact Villa Park. And their objective is to help youth, at-risk youth in our town. And they need our help. And I know this is a rather long website, but you may not be able to see that. I don't know. But they're asking folks to participate in a survey, and I can send it to you, President Bolthus, if you could share it with the village board, because they have very few, and it's just to get people's, to get residents' feedback on what they think we need and certain goals that they have. I also want to just say thank you to the Villa Park Parks and Recreation Department for the great job that they did in getting the garden plots ready at Westmore Park. They did a great job. For folks who are interested, there are still garden plots available. They're very inexpensive, $10 for a plot. And they do, obviously, we want to maintain social distancing while folks are at the garden plots. And that's really all I had. Thank you.
Yeah, send me that email address and we'll share it with the board members.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Cielo.
President, I have no report this evening.
Trustee Ecozone.
Yeah, first off, I'd like to echo the Villa Park first responders, police, fire, all our medical personnel that have been helping us in these trying times have done a great job. Secondly, kind of following up on that VP grub crawl, there are still places in Villa Park that are open doing carry out. And if you go to yesvillapark.com or villaparkchamber.org, they'll have lists of restaurants and stores that are open doing either deliveries or step up where they'll come out to your car, or you can go in and pick up food or other things. I know a couple of the cigar shops are doing that also. So there are places that are open, and just keep buying Villa Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Tucker.
Basically, I want to thank you and the village manager for keeping us up to date on the coronavirus. I know you guys have tons of meetings, and I'm thankful that you're keeping us up to date on it so that I don't have to read them all or go through it all. I appreciate that you're keeping us up on the stats so that I don't have to be overwhelmed with them. You guys are handling it for me. I've also like to thank the park department. They have been going around the village and still doing their job on cutting trees down and taking care of the maintenance around the village through this time and keeping the parks beautiful and safe. They've been making sure that, those restrictions are being taken care of around our parks to keep people safe. And I've also noticed, I thank the police department for also checking on those, that we have kind of keeping alert on people that don't think they need to do the social distancing, and they've been making reminders to them to do that. So that our numbers do stay as low as possible here in Dupage County. I appreciate that they are following through on that. It keeps our village pretty. And yes, I also want to tell the people of Villa Park, please support our businesses that are open. It is greatly appreciated by those businesses. They need our help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My report is, yes, I too say, please go to our local businesses that are open, the restaurants, and patronize them. They need your help. I can't keep them all in business myself. We're going to need help from all the residents and everybody in the village. And when you go in, there's usually a little tip jar there for the waitresses that are still working and the cooks who are putting things together. If you put a few extra dollars in there, that would help them go a long way. So that would help. I'll have to contact the L Stash on this grub crawl. So that's a great idea. Far as the information I've been sending out and the manager have been sending out to the board members, I always wonder if I'm overwhelming you with the information. If it's more information than you really want, if it gets to that point, just let me know. I know sometimes I send it to you and then the manager sends it to you. I get overwhelmed by it. So I thought you might as well share in the overwhelming with me. So, but we are working through that. You're right. We have a number of phone calls every week. Manager has 1 extra or 2 extra than I don't. So he has a manager's call. So he has a few more. And for the people who send me emails and complaining about the governor's action and with the shutdown and the stay-at-home order, and they don't agree with it, I can just go by what requirements I get from the state. The people you really have to be talking to are your state senator and your state representative. They're the ones that have to get down to Springfield and voice and be your voice to the governor. That's why we elected him to do that. I try to do it in my part through the mayor's caucus, but they have to get down there and do that. I've talked to them about that it's important that they go down there and have session. There's some things that just need to be voted on, and that they need to represent us because they're our representatives. So with that, I also want to point out our next board meeting, because of the holiday in 2 weeks, we're moving our board meeting up till next week, Monday. We're going to try to do it the same way. I think it worked pretty well tonight, so we'll be doing the same thing probably. And also, I want to point out that, as you all know, Patrick Grill retired Friday. Last week was his last day. The new community development person is Consuelo Egress. I think that's how she pronounced it. She's on board now, and I've met her. I don't know if she tuning in here tonight or not. Are you here?
There she is.
I don't see her though. So
there she's waving her hand.
Oh, okay. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, it's great to have you here. So appreciate that. And I also want to point out that today was Kevin Wachtel's last day, and his temporary replacement is Susan Griffin. Yeah, I think Susan's here. Susan, you want to say hi, and maybe you'll pop up on the screen for us? I know I saw you earlier. Nope. Maybe she packed it in already when we went through some of these items. So welcome aboard.
Oh, there she is. Yep.
Oh, there she is.
No, I'm here. Yeah, sorry. It just took me a second to unmute and undo it all. But yes, very nice to meet you all. Thank you.
We're looking forward to working with you. You will have a job too. So
great. Oh.
So with that, I don't have anything else besides thanking the first responders. And I know some of you a little better than others, and some nurses who are putting their, and even not just the nurses, but the support staff in the hospitals. Thank you for going to work every day. You probably don't hear it enough, but we do appreciate it. So, and we'll move on to the manager's report. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe Trustee Wagner has raised his hand several times, Your Honor.
Oh, he did?
Just very quickly, Trustee Bolthus, I just want to mention that I thought the last edition of the IML magazine was really excellent. All the information regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. But there's one thing that particularly struck my attention. There we go. The IML is making available to municipalities the ability to watch a documentary Rita, I think her name was Cromwell, the former comptroller treasurer of Dixon, Illinois. And there is a documentary about that whole unfortunate saga. And it's really very interesting. And the whole process that Dixon went through, and especially the second half of the documentary, which shows the residents' reaction to what occurred. And thankfully, they were able to recover a lot of that money through litigation. But I would certainly encourage folks to watch that. You can watch it on YouTube. I think it's also on Netflix as well, but it's really well done. And it really, it's quite an eye-opener. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree too. We sent out a lot of COVID-19 emails concerning hospital stays and positive, negative tests. And we always include our communication specialist, Gabby, with these emails. And then she updates all of our social media accounts to keep our residents informed as well. And at times it is overwhelming because we receive quite a few emails and phone calls a day concerning various topics with the COVID-19 matter. But I also too would like to thank the first responders and staff for hanging in there. It's not easy. A lot of things are happening right now. It's a very fluid situation. So, and I also, appreciate everything that Director Grill's done for us and Director Wachtel. So even that's kind of fluid right now with the changes we've made. So I think we have a wonderful staff, Your Honor, and a wonderful board. So we'll get through this together. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I'll make that motion.
Ecozone, second. Wagner, all in favor, say aye.
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 With that, we're adjourned. I'm not waiting for you all to say aye. We're just